So good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time that you are watching this video. I am Richard Taylor, and I am here at the VAS organization retreat. VAS is Victims Advocating Support Systems, and that organization helps people dealing with the loss of a family member to gun violence, right? And so I have here with me Miss
Lewis.
Jackie Lewis of Charlotte, North Carolina. So she's going to be sharing her story on how she lost not one but two family members to gun violence within a period of about 3 months, right?
3 months.
Okay, so I'm going to let you tell the initial story about your family, your son, and actually your grandson, correct?
That is correct. My son was Cinque Farah, is Cinque Farah, because I don't look at him as not being here. He's always going to be in my heart and be with me. Cinque was killed December 22nd, 2020, 2 days before Christmas Eve.
And how old was he?
He was, at that time, he was 30. He had just turned 30 years old. He had just had a birthday in October. And a fight took place in the neighborhood. And when I came out there, I saw the fight and I asked them, like, why are y'all fighting? Just break the fight up. Simply break the fight up, break them up. And the guy said, after he broke the fight up, kill him. Well, I brushed it off. I heard him say it. And I just took it and just brushed it off. Like, he ain't gonna do nothing. Little did I know that 11 o'clock that night, that boy was gonna come back and take my son's life. I was in my bedroom and I heard gunshots. 7 of them. I remember counting them. And when I heard those gunshots, something different about it. Mother's intuition, whatever. But I knew then that my son was dead. I knew he was dead. I said, somebody done killed my son. And my grandson was in the house with me, and he said, Grandma, don't go out the door. Let me go see what's going on, and I'll come right back and get you.
And how old was your grandson at the time?
At the time, he was 20.
And that's Cinque's
nephew.
Okay,
That's Cinque's nephew. So he ran out the door. And when he ran out the door, I'm thinking, am I really going to stand here? Or am I going out the door? But it was so dark. When I tell you it was pitch black, and the street that I lived on is very well lit up. But when I walked out the door that night, it was pitch black. I couldn't see anything. All I heard was screaming. And I knew that it was Davion. The kind of God that I have, right? When I walked over to where Davion's were, I never saw them. Never saw him laying on the ground. All I could hear was screaming. I did see the bottom of my son's shoes, but God spared me from seeing my child like that. I don't know how it is that I walk right past them. To this day, I still don't know how that happened, but I walked right past them and didn't even see them. And
go ahead, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Cinque was laying on the ground. Davion was holding him. And at the time, I did not know that Cinque had been shot in the head 7 times.
7 times?
7 times. They had shot my child in the head 7 times. And that just really did something to me.
Now, did he know the guys?
The guy, there was a 16-year-old, bless you. There was a 16-year-old that was fighting, a juvenile.
Okay.
And he broke it up. The juvenile went back to his family, to his brothers, and got his brothers and told them that Cinque had punched him.
Okay.
And so he went to go get his brothers to come back. Now, granted, they watched my son. My son was not one. He went to bed. He was 11 o'clock. You wasn't going to catch him outside after 11 o'clock because You know, he wasn't a perfect child. He didn't live a perfect life, but he was my child.
Exactly.
And he did not deserve what they did to him, right? But they shot my child in the head 7 times.
So not the guy who broke it up. I mean, not the kid who was fighting,
Not
but
the one
his
that
brothers
was exactly
came back.
his brothers. He was with them because there was 3 of them in the vehicle.
Okay.
When all of that happened, I was just in disbelief. I didn't want to believe that was my child laying out there. All the time I knew it was, but I didn't want to believe that that was him laying out there. I called my son. I said, you know, you need to come over here because my son is dead. He laying on the ground dead. And my son is going, what? And I'm so in shock that I'm really not believing this myself, right? Then it hits me that, yeah, he's dead, you know? And then all, you know, everything just goes haywire.
So, like, did they do a drive-by, or did they see him walking? Like, what? From what you, I know you wasn't out there, but from what you understand,
From what I understand is that they were in the store parking lot. My son had gone to the store. They watched him come out of the store in the parking lot, walk across the street to my daughter's house. They came out of the parking lot. From what they could see on the camera is they came out of the parking lot, went into a cul-de-sac, turned around, waited for him to come out of my daughter's house. When he came out of my daughter's house, they slowly came up behind him. But the car, somehow or another, got in front of him. One of them jumped out of the car and started shooting him. Once they shot him and he was down on the ground, another person got out of the car and shot over him again. My grandson, by that time when we hear the gunshots, my grandson runs out, so he sees the vehicle. And that's one of the ways that we were able to identify the people that had killed my son.
by the vehicle?
By the vehicle that my grandson had described. And the next day, the young man, the juvenile, came to my house the very next morning, and he said to me, ma'am, God bless you and I pray for you. And I said, well, if I find out you had something to do with my son's killing, we're going to have a problem. And I said that to him, and I told him that. He said, ma'am, I ain't pulled the trigger. He just kept saying I didn't pull the trigger. For me, that was confirmation that he knew about the killing. He just didn't pull the trigger. Now, granted, October, I had taken that boy's picture. I don't know why, but I had taken his picture. I've never grasped that either at this point, because I don't know why I took his picture, but I took his picture, and that was in October the 13th. I took that boy's picture for whatever reason, and on December 22nd, I showed it to the police, and I said, this is who y'all need to be looking for, because this is who killed my son. And they said, how you know? I said, God told me that that's who did it, and I know that he said he was going to come back and kill my son. And they was like, well, that may not be the case. Well, the boy walked past me every day. He made sure he stopped at my house, and he made sure he told me, God bless me. God bless you, ma'am, every day, every single day. For 2 months. And it started making me angry because I felt like he was
Taunting you or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like that's what he was doing to me. And he always said that I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't pull the trigger. So I really wanted to do harm to him. But I had to back up from my thinking even going there, because I knew that if I allowed myself to continue to entertain that thought, that at some point it would come into play. I'm not the woman that I want to be, but I'm not the one that I used to be. But had I been, it could have been a bad situation for the young man.
So did they end up arresting him?
They did. They picked him up. Two months later, they picked him up, and they picked up his brother because he told it on his brother. And they went and served the warrants. They got to the brother's house. They found 2 guns. He said he did not own that car that he was driving, but they found the keys to the car. They went searching the neighborhood, and he had the car parked blocks away. They towed the car in, and as evidence, they found blood in the car with shoe prints on it.
Okay.
They arrested the other brother. He decided that he would tell the truth, and he told them exactly what happened. He also told them had Day Day, which is my grandson,
Okay.
come out the door when he was there, that he was going to kill him too.
He said that while he was in custody.
Yeah, yeah.
And how old were these gentlemen?
One was 16, and the one that's still in custody now has just turned 23.
So they were like 20 at the time.
Right, he was. The one the trigger man was.
And so you said the one that's 16, he's not locked up anymore?
He's not locked up anymore. He was released. He stayed in the county for a year, in the juvenile county for a year. They released him. He had a bond hearing, and they released him. He was told that he could not stay in Charlotte. He had to leave because he lived down the street from me. His mom agreed to take him out of that city, and they took him out. But he's back in the city. I have moved from where I live at just a month ago because I've started seeing him on a regular
So
basis.
they didn't charge him with anything?
They did not charge him. They said they did not have enough evidence to charge him. However, they did charge the brother.
Now, has the brother went to court yet, or he's still going to court?
The brother has been locked up for 3 years. We went to court a month ago. And when we went to court, I am a Stop the Gun Violence organization and an advocate. And before going to court, I knew I needed to write a letter to the judge because I did not want to forget anything that I needed to say to him. So I wrote that letter, and when we got in court, I read that to the judge. By God's grace and mercy, we had a judge that is against gun violence.
Okay.
And after I finished, I showed him my son's picture, and I told him, this is what I have to look forward to every day. Like, this is my son. This is what I did. This is what I carry around with me. This is the only thing that I have that's near and dear to my heart. That was my son. And so I have to ride with a picture, not my son, right, in my vehicle. So the judge is looking like, And the guy is saying to the judge, well, I didn't even know him. So the judge is saying, well, why did you shoot him? And he said, because of the fight. But he wanted a bond hearing. He wanted to get out on a bond hearing. The judge, after I finished talking to the judge and explaining to him that my life was not the same, that it would never be the same, and I don't know how, if he had a child, would he want them walking around on the streets if they shot his child in the head 7 times? And he said no. And then he said to me, Miss Lewis, I'm not going to give him a bond. I'm going to let his bond stay where it is, and that's no bond.
Okay.
So he did deny his bond. He did not accept the plea. They gave him a 16-year plea. He did not want the plea.
Who,
The young man.
judge or the young man didn't accept?
No, the young man did not accept the plea. That's when he went for a bond hearing, after he did not accept the plea. He did not want to take the 16 years. I explained to the judge that I did not want that to be a revolving door for him. I did not want him in and out, in and out. I wanted him to stay where he was until we had a trial. And the judge agreed that there would be no more bond hearings for him. So there would be no more bond hearings for him.
But he's still in custody
And
now?
he is still in custody, and we will be going to trial. That could be 2 years from now. That could be 5 years from now.
Yeah.
We just don't know. But however, I'm satisfied with the fact that he is in county. He was not released on a bond, and the way things look, he will not be released on a bond. I started my organization, and I started bringing the young people in every Monday. I had a live, and I started talking to the young people about how do we prevent gun violence, how do we prevent so many homicides that were going on in our city. And they talked about some of the things that we could do and how it affected them when all of their friends were killed, when their friends got killed, and how they felt when Sinquay was killed, and they wanted to do something about it. 3 months later, my grandson was killed. I had a march. He led the march, and the young man had already killed somebody. Buried her at a church parking lot across the street from where we live. My grandson knew about it because the guy's girlfriend told my grandson what had happened, because him and her are very close. And the guy got mad because he knew that my grandson knew about it, and he killed him.
So he killed your grandson for being a witness to the murder.
Yes. Yes, he killed my grandson. My grandson was not a witness. His girlfriend told him about it. The guy was very upset that my grandson knew about it. Not to mention that the guy that killed my grandson grew up with my daughter, came to my parents' house, played with her on a daily basis, and he knew exactly who he was killing.
So your grandson knew the guy.
Yeah. The guy that killed my grandson was 36 years old. My grandson had just turned 21.
So is that the same grandson that witnessed his uncle?
That is correct. He witnessed my son to being killed. That had already destroyed him. He was already, after that, he was in very bad shape. He was in very bad shape. He could not focus. He could not do anything. He was no good after that. And he had gotten sick right before all of that had happened, right before everything that happened with him. And he was in the hospital for like a week, and he was in a coma for 3 days.
Who, your grandson?
My grandson. My grandson was in a coma for 3 days. He came and he told me that, he said, "Grandma, I need to tell you that when I was having when I had I guess he thought it was a dream, but when he was in the coma, he said that my son, he remembered my son coming and knocking on the door and telling him to open up the door because it was cold outside." For me, that was confirmation that my son made it to heaven,
Okay.
right? And he said, "Well, Grandma, you and Rashard, which is my other son, me and Sinquay was sitting on the couch in this dream, and y'all walked right past me. Y'all was walking past us like y'all didn't even see us." And I didn't think about it at the time. And he said, it was like it was just so real, Grandma. Well, then when I really started to process it, I said, you know what? And this was after he was dead. I said, my grandson seen his death in that dream and didn't even know it. But what he was telling me was that, first of all, he gave me confirmation that my son had made it to heaven. And then secondly, when he said, I didn't see him or my son when I walked past them that day, or whatever it was that night, I did not see them because they were dead, right?
Yes.
And I had
No, give us like 2 minutes. We can't pause it because it's live. So it was like 2 minutes. We've been here like 20 minutes. So 2 minutes, 2 more minutes.
My coworker's having a panic attack. Her cousin got shot this morning.
Oh. Where's your coworker at, man?
Hiding in the back.
Hiding in the back. Okay. Well, thank you, man. What happened with the case?
Well, with his case, they have offered the young man 25 years. He does not want the plea. We'll be going to trial with him also. Now, granted, this young man has already killed somebody.
Okay.
He killed a young lady. He tried to cut her body up. And then he took her and he buried her across the street. And that's the information that my grandson knew that caused him to kill him. He buried her across the street. But for whatever reason, they have not been able to charge him with that murder because they could not prove. However, they went into the house, found all the blood and all of that stuff, but they still could not prove that he had done that to that girl. So that's why they offered him a plea of 25 years. But with 25 years for killing 2 people, just
Oh, so they gave him a plea for both cases.
But they didn't want to really give him something saying that that girl had been killed by him. It's now we have 2 cases that we're waiting for a trial on. We don't know how long they're going to take. Like I said, it could be 2 years, could be 5 years, could be we don't know how long. But what I do know is that I'm going to continue to fight for my son and my grandson. I am their voice. My daughter is a part. She is the co-founder of my organization. She was not able to be here this weekend with us because she manages the location. And so she wasn't able to be here. But we will continue to fight. We will continue to be the voices of our children. And we will continue to go out and spread awareness and prevention about gun violence in our communities.
I thank you so much, Ms. Lewis, for the work that you're doing, and your 2 organizations are called what?
I have one that's Angels of No Mercy. That is my Stop the Gun Violence organization. My other organization is Mommies with a Purpose. That is a support group for mothers who have lost their children and fathers that have lost their children to gun violence. And I am now starting a mentoring program, which is Saving Angels of No Mercy and Breaking Every Chain. That is 3 organizations put together as a mentoring program. So those are 3 different organizations that have come together to work with our youth in our community.
Okay, and once again, I just thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being a voice and willing to speak about it. I can't imagine losing 2 relatives so close apart, and you're still staying strong. You're still using it to encourage and be around others. So I thank you. Ms. Lewis, if y'all want to get in contact with her directly, you can call me 919-587-7782, or you can leave like an email or any information.
Okay, I do have an email. It is Jacqueline, JACQUELINETDAVIS668 @gmail. You can also go on to Facebook and go into Angels of No Mercy, Tears for Quay and Day, and you can come on to my lives and watch us on there.
Tears for Quay and Day. Yeah, you definitely have my condolence, and I thank you for tuning in and just sharing your story. And we'll possibly be back with more stories like this. But once again, we thank you, Ms. Lewis, for sharing your story.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. Peace and blessings.
Thank you.